political discourse and democracy. And many of us believe that social media has addressed many of the ills of mainstream media. And during the inaugural session, we discussed about many of the ills of mainstream media that mostly relates to media, politics, and business. And those linkages were found to be responsible for deteriorating performance of the Indian mainstream media. And this is why many of us believe that the rise of social media is an answer to many of the ills of mainstream media. But is it so? Has social media really democratized, journalism and communication in India? And so this topic again has emerged as a challenging task for journalists all across the world. Because we have to define the difference, we have to distinguish between free expression and journalism. Because the social media has opened the way for free expression of ideas, opinions, unrestricted expression of opinions. But all such opinions, all such communications constitute journalism. This is a fundamental question for all of us to consider. And the most importantly, I think we should distinguish between what is free expression and its limits and how it has to be differentiated from journalism. That is the core issue, I think, is identifying the core values of journalism. Then only by defining the core values of journalism, only we can distinguish it from what constitutes the right to freedom of expression and free expression. So we have 7 papers altogether for this session, and most of the papers relating to various aspects of social media, politics, and democracy. And we will start the paper presentation session with Michelle-Gina, Tatenda, Chikwanha. And then we will, okay, what's your topic? You tell your topic, please. And let us limit the presentation in 5 minutes or followed by 2 minutes for discussion. 10 minutes. 10 minutes, okay. 10 minutes, including discussion. Okay. Then at the end, if there are questions, we will take it. Okay?
Kids School of Mass Communication. I'm a student from Zimbabwe pursuing my Master of Communication and Journalism at Pitt University. First of all, I'd like to thank you for giving me the opportunity to present my paper titled Media Depictions of Afghan Women Amidst Cultural Shifts and Extremism. So just to give you a bit of a background on what happened in the Taliban, for those who may not be aware. So the Taliban is basically an Islamic extremist group that was ousted out of power in Afghanistan in 2001. And they regained strength over 2 decades, rooted in their fight against the Soviet occupation. So what happens is that there's a lot of chaos that happened, including the 9/11 attacks that were sent to basically take the situation, to put the situation under control. However, after years of negotiations, I'm just going to cut the long story short. After years of negotiation, I think the United Nations could be perceived as failed to basically put the Taliban under control, and they regained power in 2021. So the paper is basically trying to explore how the media depicted the situation and condition of women under this regime, which is referred to by most media outlets as a terrorist group. So the significance of the study is to understand how different generations. Now the thing with most studies that look at countries such as Afghanistan is that we tend to lump up experiences. We tend to generalize experiences, meaning that we say we're depicting media that women are going through this, when in fact experiences differ on age and area. So the situation or the conditions under women that are older or the older generation are most likely going to be different than the situations that are going to be met by younger generations. So that is why I thought that in this paper I would focus on looking at the different generations and their experiences and how they're depicted in the media. So we're going to look at different news outlets and how they depict the conditions and the treatment of women by the Taliban regime. So the research questions that inspired this research were: how do media representations of Afghan women reflect, cultural shifts and extremism? And what impact do media depictions have on the lived experiences of Afghan women? And the research objectives were to uncover underlying power structures and dominant narratives. So you realize that I used a lot of critical discourse analysis in this research, particularly the narrative theory, in order to uncover these underlying power structures and to recontextualize representations within cultural nuances by challenging historical biases and colonial lenses to promote diverse, nuanced portrayals that empower Afghan women, and not just women as a lumped up group, but women of different generations. So in the literature review, my literature basically.
Can you the slides?
Yes. Oh.
What's your slides?
I was alluding to the literature review, and the literature basically provided 3 different groups, or rather I analyzed them based on 3 themes. That is the shift, the gap, and the interplay. And the interplay is just an analysis that I had to throw in there. So there is, in literature, when it comes to talking about the media, a lot of literature, including that which was carried by, a study that was carried by Prof in 2012, depicted that before the digital revolution, Afghan women were often portrayed through rigid gender stereotypes. So this is where you get narratives such as women are oppressed, women are going through these things based on whatever feminist rhetoric that may exist, but we'll go into that in the analysis. And there's also literature that exposes that younger generations engage with digital platforms more than older generations. So older generations will tend to listen to mainstream media or follow mainstream media more than the social media or the online magazines and stuff like that. And then there's also what I refer to as the gap. So this is where we have older generations who favor cultural norms. And we also have younger generations influenced by global perspectives, striving for greater gender equality. So in this specific lens, I was basically looking at how older generations favor cultural norms. So there are cultural norms in Afghanistan that may not seem socially acceptable in the eyes of the world, but because of the kind of narrative that the media pushes. However, when you then go to speak to an older Afghan woman, she'll probably be like, that is our tradition, that is our culture, what are you talking about? Whereas the gap now lies in someone who's a younger media consumer who's spending time on social media and they're listening to a lot of feminist rhetoric. So obviously they have a different mentality on what is socially acceptable. So there is that gap that exists in media that also literature tried to expose. And then the interplay now, this was an analysis, and I was basically just thinking that this provides an opportunity where we see that there can actually be a delicate balance between tradition and progress in the Afghan society. But this entirely relies on how the media depicts Afghan stories. So, like I said, I used the critical discourse analysis, a narrative approach or a narrative theory. Why I use the CDA approach is because it is argued to uncover power dynamics and ideologies which basically tend to shape media portrayals. And it also is very beneficial in unmasking dominant narratives. So some of the news outlets then I looked into as my data. I collected data from India Today, The Economic Times, CBS News, Al Jazeera, The Guardian, The Washington Post. I also used Africa Today and a lot of other news outlets, and I also looked at international organizations that tend to report on the happenings and developments of the different countries, such as the United Nations Women and the United States Institute of Peace. So, if you look at some of the language, because the critical discourse analysis is basically rooted in analyzing the language that is used and the tone that is used, based on a structure that you can actually come up with as a researcher. And I saw that you will see that India Today, women lose value. Life under Taliban restrictions, And you see another term that was very interesting was gender alert, meaning there is a dire situation going on in Afghanistan. You will also see despair is settling in Afghanistan. And you will see some of the words such as women are in prison in Afghanistan. So in such a rhetoric, it actually depicts a picture in the media consumer, so to speak, because they will see a news headline that is saying women in Afghanistan are in prison. And obviously there's a perception that is created in the mind of the reader or the mind of the listener of that particular media outlet, right? So we also have social media movements that, where I also discovered a form of pushing extremism. And this is where we have social perception and extremism and gender-based violence online. So there is what is called the Red Pill movement. I do not know if there are a lot of young men that are in the room. They will testify to the fact that there's a lot of woke movement that is going on where people are saying, let's put an end to feminism. Men have become victims of feminism because women are now, above the man, or there are rhetoric such as that, and it confuses the general consumer of media. So you see now that there is a gap that exists on what is happening on social media and what is happening on the mainstream. The mainstream is pushing the agenda. Women are oppressed. And then you go on social media and you see social media is pushing the agenda, men are oppressed. So the question now in the head of the consumer is, who really is oppressed, right? So this becomes a very interesting thing for researchers and media professionals and journalists to look at and to look into and to find a balance in how they push rhetorics, both in the mainstream media and on social media. So there is a writer called Chimamanda Ngozi Adichie. She's an African writer, and she always talks about the dangers of a single-sided story. This is where people become victims of rhetoric. What I mean by this is, let me give an illustration. I may digress a little bit. If you study Westphalian institutions, they basically push a rather very limited narrative on what happens to the rest of the world, such as Africa and Asia. And Europe and America are usually depicted as the saviors and the heroes of the world. So you will see, for example, even in a movie, you will see that maybe there is a villain who attacks New York, and then there is a hero, let's say Captain America or Superman, and then Superman saves New York, and then all of a sudden the movie ends by the hero saved the world. And only this was a depiction of New York or maybe Philadelphia. So already in the mentality of consumers, maybe in Asia or in Africa, there is that hero outlook that is created where you look at Westphalian countries or Westphalian institutions as the hero of the world. And with this particular narrative now, going back to my topic, you will see that Afghan women have also become a victim of rhetoric when they are entirely displayed or depicted as victims, which could be true to a certain degree, yes. But now the question comes is, when you say they are victims, it is in which sense? So there is need to take cultural nuances when people are analyzing, especially academicians and journalists when they're reporting the news. They need to take into account the cultural background of the story. So there is a danger of presenting a single-sided story. I was actually having a conversation with my colleague, and I was asking them that, just to digress a little bit, there is this dilemma in journalism where, let's say in Bhubaneswar, the Prime Minister has visited Bhubaneswar, but at the same time there's been a bus accident that has killed 50 people. So which news has got higher human interest? Which news has higher human priority? But it doesn't nullify that if one news takes higher priority, it doesn't nullify the fact that the other news is still important news. So there's always that dilemma, and the point now is, if we present in media a single-sided story, we won't uncover the entire truth, which is a holistic and objective approach that is required in journalism practice. So, and like I said, that the portrayal of Afghan women's dresses, such as the burqa, often lets no one. So there were quite a number of reports that were reported that in Afghanistan, women have been mandated to...
Michelle, please conclude.
Oh, okay, sorry. Women have been mandated to go to work wearing, what is this called? The hijab. And then the world lost its mind. Why are they being forced to wear hijab? And it's almost similar to people being, say, a media outlet saying, an Indian media outlet saying, we would really like our women to wear saris when they go on TV. This is basically to show and to push the cultural agenda of the country and to say this is just who we are as India or this is who we are as Afghanistan. But because there's a feminist rhetoric that is being pushed, it will seem as if all women in India are so oppressed, they are being forced to wear what they want, when it's in fact a rule and a regulation for the company. So there is always that danger, but it doesn't necessarily disqualify the fact that there are human rights oppressions that are happening in Afghanistan, but we need to tell the whole truth. Basically, this was the presentation, and these were the references. Thank you.
All the dignitaries over here, all the invited, all the camera persons and all around over here, I'm so happy and privileged to be the part of such a great forum, to be amongst a legacy of intellectuals. So, presently I'm working as a lecturer in Cotton College, Naya Bazaar, Political Science. So here I am just generalizing the entire topic with the title like Social Media, Political Socialization and Democratic Participation, a study with reference to women in Odisha. So first of all, I would like to start with social media. Social media, for me, what I think, for me it's like a lens. Media is just like a lens. Apart from all the textual knowledge, that this is the fourth pillar and it is very important to strengthen our democracy. It is, the more it is transparent, the more successful our democracy is. Apart from that, I think that media is just like a lens to visualize our entire society, to visualize the entire globe around. So, with the growing importance of media, with the advent of science and technology, this concept that is social media, political socialization and democratic participation has become more and more prominent. That how social media affects or impacts or how it turned out high volume political socialization and democratic participation. So I have also specified it in the name that health study with reference to women in Odisha, definitely represent before all of you in a very precise format. So social media is a set of online tools, as all of you know that social media is a set of online tools where publics they can communicate with each other. They can put the root from from top to bottom. It's just like a medium, means a higher medium to which we can get connected with each and every people, each and every government across the world. Nowadays, the media is not only confined to the newspaper and TV. They have all different, even diversified higher medias are there. So news and social media, they have been touted as the equalizer for the enfranchised individuals to participate for democratic contribution and civic engagement. So in case of what civic engagement, I have also given some of the examples. Later I will narrate. Definitely civic engagement as far as social media and political democratic participation is concerned. Civic engagement means people are more and more. They have become more assertive about their rights right now. They have become much aware about their rights now. So social media, they have been increasingly utilized for political engagement in recent years. The people past election survey, it was done by the circle group. Nearly two-thirds of the young youth in USA, aged between 18 to 24 age group, they talk to their kid more about the presidential election before 10 years back. Okay, so this is the impact of social media. So it is a platform So here now we can discuss with each other and we can put forth our views about ourselves, about our society, about our nation, or any matter of global importance.
My name is Punyo Oka, and I'm a PhD scholar of this year from University in the Department of Journalism and Mass Communication. The title of my presentation is Communication Patterns in Social Media Activism, a study among students of Rajiv Gandhi University, Arunachal Pradesh. With the advance and rapid expansion of technology, social media platforms have revolutionized interpersonal communication, interaction, and involvement with societal and political matters. Social media platforms plays a vital role in organizing social movements and a medium for an activist to reach among the desired people or group. Likewise, social media activism is increasing day by day. It has become very powerful and popular means of campaigning for a cause, particularly among the younger generation and also among the activist group. However, at the same time, social media platforms are also being misused by many self-interest groups by providing misinformation and provocation among users, which causes damage and hurt sentiments and reputation of the people. Hence, considering this unprecedented scenario, this study has been taken up to study the communication patterns and its effectiveness among the users. The general objectives of the study is to explore the communication dynamics within social media activism, and the specific objectives of the study are to identify the communication pattern in social media activism among Rajiv Gandhi University students, and the second objective is to investigate the issues of engagement in social media activism, and the third objective is to evaluate the impact of social media activism on the student body of Rajiv Gandhi University. Research methodology. The study adopted content analysis and online survey method. In this study, the method is used to determine the conversation and issues that are being discussed within the selected Facebook pages. For content analysis, the researchers selected the social networking site Facebook. In order to make the data adequate, the researcher observed and analyzed the communication patterns in social media activism through Facebook from the year 2022 to 2023. An online survey was carried out among the students of Rajiv Gandhi University, comprising structured questionnaire based on their social media habits in order to understand their perception about the role of social media in social media activism. For the collection of secondary data, the researcher referred books and articles. The primary data was collected directly from the respondents as well as by following and content analyzing the pages in Facebook, namely Mission Arunachal Pradesh Public Service Commission Group and Pan Arunachal Joint Steering Committee Arunachal Pradesh Public Service Commission. The study was focused on analyzing the discussions on the two pertinent issues such as Arunachal Pradesh Public Service Combined Competitive Exam and Arunachal Pradesh Staff Selection Board, selected for study by categorizing them under different themes such as social media usage, communication pattern, issues of engagement, and effects of social media activism. Data analysis. Data analysis and interpretation. Once the data had been collected, it was coded, arranged into tables, and analyzed on the basis of the information gathered to arrive at the accurate solution to the research problem. The required
PPT and advance.
Yes.
Presentation.
Yes, sir.
You are presenting PPT.
Yes, sir. I know it's not.
What is
There
your
is a problem actually. It's a problem. Let's carry on.
Sorry. The required amount of data that was collected from the students of Rajiv Gandhi University to access the communication patterns, issues of engagement, and effects of social media activism among the students of Rajiv Gandhi University. The collected data are arranged and represented in tables, and accordingly analysis and interpretation were elicited. The respondents following activist page groups and social media platform. The study shows that the majority of the respondents are actively following activist page in social media platform. This indicates that social media plays a vital role in both disseminating and receiving of information through activist page or group among the students of Rajiv Gandhi University. the respondents' involvement in creating and posting content in social media forums. The study shows the majority of the respondents occasionally, rather than all of the time, post or create content in the page in social media for dissemination of information to one another. This also shows their page in social media platforms like Facebook and play a great role in voicing the voice of people, especially among the younger generation. Posting on political, social, and economic issues in social media. This reflects that majority of the respondents have posted on social, political, and economic issues in social media occasionally, so that they can share their thoughts or ideas regarding the related issues, unlike newspaper on which they can't even give their views on any issue. This can be the reason why a social media platform like Facebook is a favorable medium for the people, especially among the youths, to voice out their thoughts in different issues and problems. Signing petitions to support a cause. The study shows that majority of the respondents have signed a petition or joined online group to support a cause, which is an indication that signing a petition for a particular cause in social media platform like Facebook seem to be very effective among the students of Rajashree University. Participation of protests on social media mobilization. It shows that the social media like Facebook played an important role among the students of Rajashree University on mobilization of for genuine cause. The example of this can be seen in the current mentioned like Arunachal Pradesh Public Service Combined Competitive Exams Paper scheme and Arunachal Pradesh Staff Selection Fiasco, where the movements protest and rally took on mobilization through social media like Facebook. Content analysis and interpretation. A content analysis of the discussion found in the selected Facebook pages was carried out from the year 2022 to 23. The observation of the analysis were categorized under the theme communication pattern. The number of posts on Facebook activist page posted in 2022 to 23. It is found that most of the posts on different issues were posted in the page called Pan Arunachal Joint Steering Committee, whereas a smaller number of posts were posted in the Facebook page called Mission Arunachal Pradesh Public Service Commission Group in the same year. Tone of language. The study shows that out of the total number of posts in both the Facebook activist pages, 95.8% of the posts were appropriate, which shows that the majority of the posts were suitable or compatible for the member or receiver that has been posted in the Facebook activist page called Mission APPSC and Pan Arunachal. Only 4.2% of the messages were provocative among the members of the page group, whereas no misleading post was found during the study. Mode of communication. People in social media platform like Facebook communicate or disseminate information by the appropriate level of proficiency, where they interact through different modes of communication like words, images, or videos. During this study, it shows that 43.3% of the messages were posted in the form of words, while the students posted 25% of the messages in the form of videos, whereas 31.7% of the messages were in the form of images or pictures to convey the message to the audience. Under the theme issues of engagement, thematic distribution of issues of engagement in the Facebook activist page. In context of the both activist page in Facebook, that is Mission APPSC group and Pan Arunachal APPSC, the issue that was mostly discussed was on Arunachal Pradesh Public Service Combined Examination paper leak scam and Arunachal Pradesh Staff Selection Board scam, which was also affecting Arunachal Pradesh as a whole at the time. It shows that out of the total posts from both Facebook page, maximum number of the posts were discussed on APPSCCE paper leak scam, and 42% of the messages were on APSSB scam issue, which was discussed in the page group. I would like to go to the conclusion. As observed from the findings, majority of the posts in Facebook activist page were appropriate, and some of the messages were also found to be provocative, whereas no misleading post was found during the study, which means that the Facebook offers the right to interface and tools to connect with more and more people among the students of Rajashree University for disseminating the right message or information in the right way. Moreover, in context of communication patterns among the students, majority of the posts were on words distributing in written forms on the Facebook activist page, and also videos and images were used in order to convey the message among the users. Through this study, it can be noticed that the role of social media in the creation of shared awareness is immense. The protest movements led to a change among the students of Rajasthan University as well as the people of Arunachal Pradesh as a whole. The common feature of the various issues mentioned in the study were initiated and led by the masses with social media, especially Facebook, acting as a medium to spread information and coordinate among the participants during the protest in a real location. Social media like Facebook has ensured that information was accessible and transmitted among the user. Furthermore, recent research has found the value of activism by understanding activists as co-creators of the relationship between organization and their public. That's all about my presentation. Thank you so much.
I'm Shipra. I'm a research scholar at Center for Culture, Media and Governance, Jamia Islamia, and also a guest faculty at Delhi University. I teach media studies to BA and MA journalism students. My topic is social media and politics in India, a study of the citizens' engagement of politicians' Facebook posts. So I look at how citizens in India engage with the citizens, with the political leaders' Facebook posts. Social media, as we know, has altered the nature of political discourse in many parts of the world, including India. Internet penetration in India is still very low, but if you look at the political discourse, a lot of people are active on social media. We can see political activism on social media. We look at slacktivism on social media. We look at, people are quite active on social media, though the internet penetration is quite low. The use of media for politics is not new, so I'm not arguing that it is just with the social media that the people have started or the politicians have started using media, but politicians have always used the traditional forms of media. Even in the age of digital media or social media, we see the traditional forms of communication, traditional forms of campaign have not gone down. So if Prime Minister Modi is very active on social media, he is also very active on, on ground. He will also do election rallies on the ground also. There are over 837 million internet users in India, which is second largest user base next only to China. So it is more than the US and the other European countries. This humongous number, 837 million, is a huge number. This suggests that a lot of people interact with each other, that is with each other and also with the politicians, and debate issues every day online. If we look at the literature, scholars have studied the impact of the social media on political campaigning. So a lot of studies are there which is looking at how social media has changed the political campaigning. So Ansted and Chadwick, Evans, Chadwick and Stomer-Gelly, Niazi in the Indian context, Wright, Priest and Beckler have looked at how social media has changed the political campaigning and communication. They've also looked at how it has impacted citizens' political engagement. We look at that how people are interacting with the politicians. They are very active on social media, asking questions to the citizens or to the politicians. There are also concerns regarding exclusion and the digital divide. So it is not that the social media has democratized society or people have become active politically, but there are also concerns regarding exclusion. There are a large number of people who are excluded, right? There is digital divide. There is digital divide not only on the basis of rural or urban, but also gender, also caste based. There are studies which suggest that it is upper caste that dominates the digital space also. Like in the traditional forms of media also, mainstream media is dominated by the upper caste, it is dominated by the males. Similarly, the internet is also dominated by the males and the upper caste population in India. There are also concerns regarding fake news and disinformation. There are various studies which have looked at it. There are also concerns regarding censorship, privacy and surveillance, and also people have looked at digital journalism, how journalism has changed in the age of social media, in the age of digital media. There are serious concerns regarding censorship, there are serious concerns regarding privacy and surveillance with the, this WikiLeaks, then you had Cambridge Analytica scandal, then we have number of scandals, and these kind of things that have come out in public domain. Now, if you look at social media in Indian politics, of the 4.95 billion internet users in the world, with more than 837 million users, India has the second largest internet users in the world. Scholars have studied now, there are various studies like Chakravarti and Roy, Niazi, Pal, who have studied how Indian politicians are using digital platforms, including Twitter, Facebook, and other social media platforms. Rao suggests people have been talking about that it is only in the 2019 general elections that the people started using social media in India, that is the politicians for the political campaigning. But there are studies which suggest that it also started in 2014. But people argue, particularly Rao argues, that its visible manifestations were only seen in the 2009 elections, where almost all the national parties, almost all the major political leaders were on social media, actively interacting with the voters. There are other scholars who suggest that digital expression in India has democratized political participation in India. Scholars have also looked at how digitally mediated participations across a variety of formats like viral videos and spreadable memes, sounds. In the case of Mohan and Puthambekar, they have looked at YouTube, how YouTube has, particularly they have studied the song which went viral, Virus Collabority, mobile phones, multifunctionality, and online community formations and subjectivities, the ways they have energized new urban civic engagement and civic movements. Arvind Thakur has also looked at how the spurt of online expressions among Dalit population has, have given them some space to talk about their issues. He argues that technological affordances and distinct cultural practices associated with digital media have enabled certain sections of Dalits to resist the dominant caste narrative, thereby contributing to mobilization against caste-based discrimination. And of course, there are issues like surveillance and biopolitics that scholars have been looking at. Now, political participation, my study is concerned with the political participation, and when I say political participation, it is not about just elections. When we talk about Indian democracy, when we talk about Indian media, we largely talk about elections. But democracy is more than elections. It is how people interact, what people do in between the 5 years, what citizens do, what politicians do, what the civil society does, right? So the democracy, what we celebrate as the largest democracy, is not just about elections. It is also about other ways how people interact and the quality of democracy. So in the past few decades, several studies have come out, largely in the Western context, where people have suggested that the emergence of online media platforms has enabled new forms of political engagement. Now, as I said, that democracy is not just about elections, it is also about how people interact with the citizens. So there is a trend like blogging, there is sharing political content on internet, demonstration, online protests, signing e-petitions, buying a specific brand of coffee, political consumerism, or sometimes boycotting also. Like there are sometimes trends where people also start boycotting the products by some corporate houses. Donating money to petitions, attending a rally, changing the display picture. There is also this trend is very visible in Indian context also, where people do change their DP in support or against any cause or any political issue, and also encouraging others to do the same. I'll move to the data and methodology now. Now what I have
Come to the conclusion.
Yes, sir. Just 2 minutes. So what I have done is I wanted to study the 6 national parties that we have in India. So we have 6 national parties as per the Election Commission of India, as per the vote share. What I have done is I have identified these 6 national parties and who are the top political leaders of these parties on Facebook. So the period was 12 February to 26 February. The 2 major, I could not study all the 6 major political parties because of the paucity of time. So I have looked at only 2 major political parties, BJP and the INC. In BJP, the top 3 followed leaders on Facebook are, of course, Prime Minister Narendra Modi, Amit Shah, and Piyush Goyal. When it comes to Congress, it is Rahul Gandhi, Priyanka Gandhi, and Ashok Gehlot. These are the top followed leaders on Facebook. Now, when we look at users' engagement on Facebook, how citizens or how users can engage with the messages on the platform, there are several ways. They can follow an account, they can follow a political leader, they can click a post if it contains a hyperlink, they can also react. Now Facebook has also started, initially it was just like, now there are other options also like haha or love, so there are other reactions also. Then they can comment and then they can share a post. This is it from me. Thank you for listening.
Thank you.
The question is social media and election campaigns in India, trends since 2014 general election. It is a joint paper by me and Dr. Gitanjali Panda. So coming to the background of this presentation, as we know that the elections are regarded as the tone and caliber member of forming a government, where the head of the government comes to power with this by means of election. And as a liberal parliamentary democracy and pluralist society, India has been naturally living with this multi-party system, and several political parties have been continuously engaged in this political process. So therefore, with the technological revolution in the 21st century, we see that the social media has become a very prime source of information during election. And the good news of the social media is that the message is more important than the messenger. Now coming to the objectives of the study, basically there are two objectives. First one is to analyze the distinction between traditional and social media campaigning methods in Indian election, and the second objective is to evaluate the effectiveness of the social media campaigning by analyzing the emerging trends since 2014 general election. And basically the data needed for this analysis has been collected from the archives of Election Commission of India and CSTS. Talking a bit about social media and elections in India, we find that elections are not only important to politicians but also to citizens, because every citizen plays a very important role by casting their vote. Traditionally, the ways through which people engaged, the politician engaged with people were public meetings, election rally, voting, visiting personally, etc. But with the technological advancement, we find that the traditional method of campaigning has become outdated, and now we are looking through a campaign process through social media. And according to a study conducted by Center for Studying Developing Studies in 2022, around 90% of political leaders are active in social media. And why? Because it enables various forms of interaction between voters and political actors. And it has also led to C-governance, which stands for citizen-led governance in India. Now, when we look at election campaigning, basically we talk of traditional campaigning, where the techniques like postering, leafleting, newspaper campaign, party political broadcast, they have been highlighted. Basically, the target is that to have print media in order to influence the voter. But moving ahead, we are now talking of modern campaigning, which is an electron method of campaigning, in which the campaign is through social media and or we can say of phone banks, blogging, YouTube, or use of mobile app, etc. So therefore, it has been also found from a study by CSTS that Indians are rated as the most active social media users in the world. And among all major parties in India, they have their presence over internet through website or Facebook pages or Twitter accounts and blogs. And this trend of connecting people digitally, it was basically followed by political parties in India since the general election of 2014. And when we talk of social media, the influence of social media in 2014 general election, we find that social media has been integrated into routinized political communication since the 2014 general election. We swept the BJP into power, and political communication was never so heterogeneous, inclusive, it was fragmented, chaotic, creative, and equally polarizing before 2014. From Modi to Rahul Gandhi to Aam Aadmi Party, most of the politicians were active in social media, whether in Google Hangouts or Twitter or Facebook. And also an interesting thing is that the election campaign which was held in India in 2014, it was the second most expensive campaign in the history of world after the US presidential campaign. The 1992 presidential election in US ushered in a new era of media campaign, and next only comes the 2014 election held in Lok Sabha in India in terms of technology as well as the amount of money spent. So therefore, the three American social media giants, that is Facebook, Twitter and Google, had emerged as a major player in 2014 general elections in India, where political parties used the media in breaking the news, spreading the message through these outlets. For example, Modi and his team initiated the program Chai Pe Charcha, Or we have a Facebook page where we see I support Narendra Modi. Or there is a WhatsApp number where we can follow Modi's rallies and speeches. And coming to 2019, the influence of social media in 2019 general election, it was the first national election contested with a truly digital consumption society, wherein approximately half of the voting population had access to digital pathways and another one-third had access to social media. So by May 2019, according to the Lokniti survey, roughly one-third of Indians had access to Facebook, WhatsApp and YouTube, which is up from 9% in 2014. And this cheap data revolution triggered by the launch of Jio phone network in September 2019 also transformed Indian politics. And according to some, the 2019 general election was India's first post-Jio election. And also this 2019 election saw a hike in online rumors and fake news, whereas effective regulations were made by the government and election commission. Whereas we can see that the use of digital media in 2019 was vastly greater in comparison to 2014. Even 2019 saw individual politicians forming their own social media committees. Now we very well know that 2024 elections are around the corner. In fact, the countdown has already started. And some of the trends which we can mark in this forthcoming general election is that Google supports this election by providing easy access to voting information and countering misinformation. Initiatives include partnering with the Election Commission, prioritizing trusted content on YouTube, and implementing advertisement policies for transparency. Measures relating to artificial intelligence generation content are also being taken care of. And also we find that in election 2024, we'll not only see the depth of 2-minute plus video, but also it will see rise and rise of 10, 15 or 30-second videos. And the reason is simple, we want speed and we want scale. And also there is a trend of coming up of influencer marketing. And influencer marketing investment was basically non-existent in 2014 election. It began experimented in 2019, but by 2024 it is on track to be one of the most essential channels for political campaigning. Apart from this, there will be like WhatsApp groups. For political communication, it is estimated that approximately 23,000 to 25,000 WhatsApp groups will be created, and which will spread widespread messages over this WhatsApp in India. There will be contests for youth engagement, prizes to be provided to the victors, promoting a way of promoting brand advocacy. And also we see that 2024 election cycle is likely to be the most costly in history. And now, moving on to the last part, that is what are the trends if we look at. We see that while Twitter and Facebook was mostly adopted by politicians, mainly by the BJP in 2014, it is WhatsApp that became the social media tool of choice since 2019 general election. Indeed, 2019 general election is also dubbed by many as WhatsApp election. In 2014, 1 in 5 Indians has access to digital media, and that has now increased to 1 in 3. And also, if we look at the 3 important trends on the basis of voters, on the basis of political parties, and on the basis of political leaders, we see that in the young social media users in 2019 increased to 65.29% in comparison to 56.30% since 2014 general election as per the Election Commission data. And on the basis of political parties, we also see that the followers of social media of the political parties like BJP, Congress and Aam Aadmi Party have increased in 2019 elections. And also in case of leader, we see that apart from Narendra Modi, leaders like Arvind Kejriwal, Rahul Gandhi also became popular in Twitter and Facebook since 2019 election. Now, concluding this paper, if we look at the future of digital politics, on one hand, the social media has allowed for democratization of politics and re-energize the political landscape. On the other hand, we find there are different types of ethical dilemmas arising, and non-ethical uses of social media compounded by the proliferation of social media among a largely digitally illiterate population. However, India has marked its journey at its transition into a digital society driven by cheap data. The steps are also being taken regarding violation and transparency in political funding. Recently, we are also talking about electoral bonds are also promising ones, but much needs to be done. Yet an important beginning has been made. So, it is expected that the number of users having internet access will increase in the forthcoming general election in 2024, especially the young generation. The importance of social media may continue to increase significantly. However, in order to combat the negative impacts of fake news and misinformation, or a low quality of political discourse, it is necessary to have a multi-stakeholder discourse involving political parties, civil society, technology companies, as well as the involvement of election commission is the need of the hour. Thank you for giving me this opportunity, and these are some of the references. Thank you very much.
Content which suggests that with the rise of social media, with the rise of digital media, more people are engaging with the politicians, with the politics. Right? There are not many studies in the Indian context. So there is of course paucity of academic research, the empirical investigation. That is why I try to fit in there. But there is no correlation that we have 8.7 billion internet users, so large number of people are engaging with the politicians.
But there are studies in the West.
Sorry.
There are studies in the West.
Yes,
which,
I did cite some of the studies which is suggesting that with the rise of social media, with the rise of digital media, there was cynicism with the people. With the rise of news media, there's a lot of political news, a lot of negative news, a lot of personal news, especially in the case of Western context, particularly US and UK. If you look at the academic research, largely it is Western based, it is Eurocentric. We don't get a lot of studies from the Asia, even from China. It is largely from these Western countries. So we have to just depend on their studies to get some inferences. But there is no study to my knowledge in the Indian context which suggests that. We are trying to figure out that. I'm also doing a survey in my PhD. We are trying to find out that how people are engaging with the politicians and with the politics. Because it doesn't mean that more internet users mean better quality of democracy or better quality of engagement also. We need to investigate that.
Any more question? Yes.
Thank you. I have a couple of questions.
Yes, sir.
Let me start with Michelle. And in a general note, in a general note, if we are not dealing with data with rationality, and if we are not having proper theoretical underpinnings in our research, I think social science research may not be scientific. So in your study, what I find that how do you select this media outlets? There are many media outlets in the world, and how do you select this media outlets? Was there any rationality there? Number one. And number two, what was your theoretical underpinnings in your study? Okay. And had you mentioned any particular period of data you were taking for CD? These are three questions for you. And the second, Punyo Oka, it's a very interesting topic for me because I wrote a paper on Delhi Rakesh and social media, Facebook, and my Charles Solis Fellowship in SOAS was on Peace of Love movement in Kerala and social media. It's very interesting for me. But my concern is what was the ethics you follow when you did that social science, that social media research, because you are doing research here and you are studying activism in another university. So what kind of ethics you have followed during the research, number one. And number two, why you did content analysis? It's a 100 years old method, and there are many new developments in methodology to deal with data, especially social media data. Even nowadays, many people are fascinated with the methodology like social media, etc. So why you do that content analysis method? What are the rationality behind that? These are two. And even if you are taking, you are doing the activism study, then isn't the content enough for doing that? Then why did you do online survey? Understanding the perception of the students. And then Shipra Raj, I was reading your abstract, I found such kind of abstract nowadays in the proceedings book, which is very problematic. The deadline for the abstract submission was last month. In the abstract, you have written that you will do this. And how did you manage to complete analyzing data of 6 politicians within a stipulated time period? Did you use any software applications? Nowadays, people are also using many applications and softwares to analyze the data. And so here is the concern of ethics, rationality, and otherwise people will not consider we the social science researchers doing something substantial. So it's not you, we all are at stake for that. These are few comments.
Let us start with this, please.
Okay, thank you very much, sir. So to respond to the first question in which you say what's the rationale behind the selected outlets, considering there are a number of outlets that are there. So since this was a desktop research basically, what I did was I looked at the outlets that reported most on the happenings in Afghanistan, and I found 14 news outlets. So with these 14 news outlets, you would see that there were inconsistencies such as there was the news that were reported in 2021 that said that the Afghanistan has replaced the Ministry of Women with Ministry of Virtue. So you would realize that maybe one outlet would report on that, but the next time another development such as the ban on secondary education for girls in Afghanistan is reported by another outlet. So I looked at the 14 outlets that reported on the developments in Afghanistan and selected the ones that reported most on the developments in Afghanistan. And then the second question, I think, was based on any theoretical framework, if my research was embedded in any theoretical framework. I did not use a theory per se, but I used the methodology critical discourse analysis, specifically the narrative approach. So with analyzing narrative, you need to look at language models. And by looking at language models, one of the ways I used was looking at language from a sentiment analytical perspective. This is where you take a certain number of words, such as the words I was basically emphasizing on, words such as terrorism, words such as prison in Afghanistan. I was basically trying to say that some were sounding neutral, some were sounding extreme, some were sounding positive. So this is how I then looked at where exactly does extremism come into play when it comes to Afghanistan women's depiction in the media. So I didn't dwell much on that, but yes, thank you, sir.
Any more question? You got it? Okay. Punya, a question for you.
So, the first question. I'm doing my PhD here, but I did my study in Rajashree University because I'm a former student of.
Ethical question about.
Sir, I have no answer about that. I'm so sorry. Since I'm a former student of Rajashree University and I'm new in this university, and I don't have much idea about this university and how student bodies work here. I have no idea. So since I was there, I have little knowledge. So I thought of to my study, my study in university.
But have you taken permission from them? That's a larger picture.
No, sir. I have spoken to the student.
Take permission from them.
No, sir.
Especially the pages you are studying.
Okay, I didn't have idea about that, sir. I'm so sorry.
Had you access to your social media comments of certain people?
Yes, sir, I did. I have
Okay.
followed the pages that I mentioned
Okay.
in Facebook,
Okay.
and I follow their posts and comments.
How you did the content analysis? What the technique you applied? What the method you applied? Social media content analysis is very simple. How you did the content analysis of social media posts, your pages? Okay, you are in a process. Okay, you are in a process of conducting this study. Okay. Any more question? Yes, sir.
I think I need to answer the last question about. I wrote in my abstract that I will be studying the top 3 political leaders of 6 national parties. I am in the process. I am doing my PhD from the center, and I also do my MPhil.
Mike. Okay. Take it.
Yeah. So, am I audible? Yeah. So I was saying that, sir, I've done my MPhil from the same center, and I've also been associated with the Center for Culture Media Governance for past 5 years. Okay, where I did 2 research projects on social media. One was on media and democracy, where we looked at 2014 general election, where we studied social media, and then but the principal investigators, my supervisor, they studied Twitter. So we have many softwares which can give us data in just one day, all the data. I've also cited that, I think I could not present it. Also, there is a software called Cloud for Facebook, which I am referring for myself.
Justice, and it has corporation the village level committee that is monitored by district child protection unity, and also it is monitored by the child welfare committee, which is quasi-judicial statutory body which looks at, which addresses all the 4 rights of the children at the district level. Yes. You will see this is the graph that is according to NCRP data, National Crime Record Bureau. This is National Crime Record Bureau as per its statistics, and this is the crime rate. You see the year by 2021 and 22.
Women's right is being, is being represented, and how political discourse are playing into, in Madhya Pradesh. A theoretical perspective on women's human rights to gain deeper insights into gender equality side is considered. News report from the year
Of the important role in shaping the public opinion related to the political decision-making process or any kind of democratic decision-making process as well. Television came in the year of 1959, while OTT platform or over-the-top platform came after only 2000. But if we consider the recent scenario, we can say that OTT has gained more information and transformation rather than the television industry. Televisions are mostly opted for the news, but in the case of OTT, we can also say that OTT not only providing us entertainment but also news as well. This study also contributes this deeper understanding of the interplay between the media platforms, users' behavior, democratic decision-making process, and in summary, I would like to also say that the televisions and OTT platforms play the pivotal role in shaping the democratic decision-making by informing, engaging, and empowering the citizens as well. For this research study, I have prepared some literature reviews, and my theoretical background is based on agenda setting theory of 1972 that helped me to understand how media has chosen their agenda, especially in the election time. And through this theory, I came to understand that during this time of 1972, there was a American president elections time, and they used the election time as their agenda and influence the people and try to change their opinion related to their voting behaviors, their elections, their election campaign.
We have all heard that in the session before lunch. And then again, the way forward for the Indian media is to better the inclusivity of diversity in newsrooms from minority and marginalized backgrounds, as well as greater sensitivity in portrayal of caste-based violence. Because in this paper, like in Times of India, it was noted that in some newspaper, the identity of the victim was also okay. Okay, thank you so much.
How the media can portray the caste-based violence. Sometimes what happened because they are marginalizations, because they are they belong to the Dalit, Adivasi caste, the media cannot highlight the things. The second thing, sometimes it's sensationalized in a different way, like, and the reason may be that only 6% of the newsroom have their Dalit, Adivasi or backward class persons in their newsrooms and in a senior positions.
Sexual harassment and abuse online and different kinds of the activities are there. And children are vulnerable to the risks of mis and disinformation. Most of the time they are unable to take decision what they are watching, whether it is right or wrong, or they become very victims. Sometimes they leave their names and identity also, so online also. So because of that they become victims.
To intervene or in this kind of cases. So that is one reason in Arunachal Pradesh where these things is still, it's a very debatable topic. So today, when we talk about, gender equality, even in this International Women's Day, the theme was Inspire Inclusion, right? And so last year it was Digit All. So there are many things like that for women's rights. But if we see in Arunachal Pradesh, there is still lots of problems. It is like socially connected, it is like family, the children, it affects because once the family is having this kind of problem, so it directly or indirectly affects the offspring. So that is one thing. This interested me to take up this research topic at Dept.
To this session, which is primarily based on fake news and its threat to democratic process and governance. We all understand that ever since the world has witnessed the mega revolution in the field of communication technology, in fact the technological innovations, coupled with globalization making the market forces reign supreme, there has been a mega metamorphosis in every walk of human life. Neither the media nor the society is an exception. I think Professor Basu, in his address, mentioned Herbert Spencer and his book, The Agents of Power, the role of youth media in human affairs. In that book, I'm just expanding on that. In that book, Spencer mentioned that the content of the media reflects the interests of those who finance them. And he also goes to the extent to dismiss the concept of social responsibility by arguing that it is an absurd concept since every media system pursues the interests of those who control it. And way back in 1958, two famous media researchers, Wesley and McLean, they expressed their view in this context. They said that the media version of the reality based on the media logic is central in the constitution of reality, with media creating selected frames of references as suitable to their results. So we have seen the paradigm shift in the audience need psychology and the media behaviorism, leading to some drastic changes in the reciprocal relationship between media and society. And we all understand that the society itself is a very complex composition in itself. And the media has to survive this complexity in the course of its social performance. And mostly after the advent of new technology and the new media, because today we are in an era of new media that has defined, that has altered the equations between the mind and the media. So mind always precedes the media. It is the nature of the user that determines the nature of the use. So we talk about media ethics, we talk about ethical issues, we talk about challenges. But somewhere we need to concentrate on this ethical mode of media use. So we will address such issues and challenges ahead in the session, and I think there are some interesting presentations, and we will carry this note forward. So first I request Satyanarayan Naik, media scholar, to present.
Chair, fellow presenters, and all those present here in the room. At the outset, let me first present my apologies because I need to present this paper and quickly rush. I have to go back home in another hour or so. There's a train that won't wait for me, unfortunately. And also, I would just take a moment to thank Bharti ma'am. She was the one who pushed me to, dare to attempt to present a paper amidst all academicians. I'm actually an independent journalist currently associated with Unicef. So please don't expect a lot, but this is my first attempt. So what I want to talk about today is tackling infodemic, analyzing misinformation, disinformation, and the role of media in Indian elections. I don't have a PowerPoint presentation, but most of my work is content analysis, plus the discussions that I've had with a lot of academicians, technical experts, not only in India, but from the Quad countries, Australia, India, US, and Japan. I am also going to time myself to just... Right. Misinformation and disinformation are significant threats to democracies around the world, undermining the media's efforts to provide the public with factual information. The overwhelming amount of information and news during elections or infodemic possess a significant challenge for the media in verifying sources and timely releasing accurate information to the public. Information shared without malicious intent, which is known as misinformation, and the deliberate dissemination of false and misleading information, known as disinformation, can manipulate public opinion and challenge the legitimacy of elections. The 2024 Global Risk Report published by the World Economic Forum this year ranks India on top of the list of countries facing the highest short-term risk of misinformation and disinformation. The report is compiled using data from the Global Risk Perception Survey, which gathered insights from 1,500 global leaders in academia, business, government, the international community, and civil society, along with insights from 200 thematic experts. With the general elections scheduled in India in a couple of months, the impact of misinformation and disinformation could be profound, potentially leading to mistrust in the electoral process. The rise of social media, digital users, and not citizens, and the advent of artificial intelligence have compounded the challenge for the media in managing the flood of information and distinguishing facts from fiction. I spoke to one of the fact checkers who is a renowned fact checker in the fraternity called SBC and has worked with AFP. He says the most common, this is quote, the most common disinformation during elections in India are the clips of sloganeering during political rallies that are presented with a misleading claim or sometimes edited to make sloganeering look anti-national. There are also clipped videos of political speeches and a lot of political parties sharing false data and exaggerated numbers on their achievements to voters. Disinformation and misinformation, no doubt, are global challenges, yet what makes the challenge in India unique is the diversity in language and culture, which makes the task much more arduous for the fact checkers. A false claim can be disseminated in multiple languages, and many fact checkers lack the multilingual competency to cross-check it. Moreover, while misinformation spreads rapidly, amplifying fact checks can take days or even weeks. Additionally, with the increased penetration of the internet and smartphones, misinformation can reach faster to a larger audience. I've also tried to look at the characteristics of what the digital users these days are and the fake news. So there's a book called Digital Citizenship, the Internet Society and Participation, which analyzes the significant correlation between internet use and political participation, particularly among the young people. But however, as the efforts to bridge the digital divide between rural and urban areas advance, the challenge of digital literacy emerges prominently. Not every internet user possesses the ability to discern between fact and fake, making it easier to influence public opinion. Some of the characteristics, like I said, today's digital users are gradually changing the patterns of news consumption, increasingly favoring fast and brief updates, and often sourcing news directly from the internet, which may bypass the editorial and fact-checking processes traditionally upheld by newsrooms. WhatsApp, as a lot of speakers have earlier also spoken, has a vast user base in India and also faces significant challenges with fake news, In fact, on March 8, the Election Commission of India addressed and debunked fake WhatsApp messages that went viral regarding the schedule of the 2024 Lok Sabha elections. The other characteristics that is noted is there's also a rising group of armchair detectives who seek to uncover truths overlooked by mainstream media. However, they often become both disseminators and consumers of disinformation in this quest. Despite newsrooms detailing the methodologies to debunk fake news, today's digital users often harbor doubts about the credibility of the individuals behind the scenes or the fact checkers themselves. The critical question that emerges is therefore whether beyond journalists or fact checkers debunking fake news as one method to curb its spread, is there a strategy that leverages behavioral insights to effectively combat disinformation? And this brings up to the research questions that I am basically focused on whether how technology has contributed to the proliferation of misinformation and disinformation in election campaigns in India, and what does future hold for technology's role in combating misinformation and disinformation. And the objectives are to examine the impact of fake news, misinformation, disinformation in the context of elections in India, and to analyze the news available in the digital platforms and social media handles. And for this, like I had earlier mentioned, I have investigated the impact of fake news on elections through the lens of news reports, specifically focusing on misinformation and disinformation campaigns spread by political parties and the media. Literature reviews, of course, the primary source, and it also incorporates insights from interviews and discussions with fact checkers, journalists, academicians, and technical experts in artificial intelligence. So the analysis says that the phenomenon of fake news has notably intensified over the last decade, and the analysis is from 2019 to 2024. It has notably intensified over the last decade, coinciding with the rise in internet users. Between 2016 and 2019, India experienced a 65% surge in internet users, dramatically enhancing the accessibility of information at one's fingertips. A 2019 study analyzing Twitter trends among political parties examined a database of 9.6 million tweets from the accounts of 17,261 politicians affiliated with 127 political parties in India. Of course, the Bharatiya Janata Party dominated the chart by 2019, but every major political party had established a significant presence on Twitter. In fact, a Hindustan Times article indicated that BJP aimed to create 3 WhatsApp groups for each of India's 927,533 polling stations in 2019 elections. And there were also reports that stated Congress Party's budget for social media activities had surged tenfold in 2019 compared to its expenditure in the 2014 election. The references are all cited, which I'm not mentioning currently. So the run-up to the 2019 elections in India was characterized by major news events such as the Kathua raid case, Pulwama attack, India's subsequent retaliatory actions, and the abrogation of Article 370 following the elections. So a non-profit organization called Check for Spam, dedicated to verifying social media posts, have reported more than 20% increase in the volume of inquiries for fact-checking in 2019, with monthly requests rising to between 5,000 and 6,000 posts in 2019, up from almost by approximately 4,000 messages the previous year.
I convey my regards to all of you, sir. Myself, Santosh, and I am presenting a paper on. The title of my paper is Fake News Propagation on Social Media Threats to Democratic Processes. So, sir, in my introduction, I would like to introduce the definitions of news. The word news has been defined in various ways by various mass communication experts. So news has a very vast and exhaustive definitions and meanings. But as far as my understanding is, it can be defined as any information which is factual, new, and interesting, and it must be about any person or place or any event which is occurred recently or in the past. Nowadays, the word fake news has been much in use. So, there is it is my thinking that there is no such as fake news. The information which is provided in that news may be fake, may be manipulated, or may be so well crafted that it seems to be a authentic news. So, fake news is, the definition of fake news is, it is all about made up of stuff that is crafted so well to manipulate people by misleading them in the form of content and spread fake news via social medias and eventually also word of mouth. Fake news refers to false information or propaganda published under the guise of being authentic news. Fake news websites and channels push their fake news content in an attempt to mislead consumers of the content and spread misinformation via social network and word of mouth. The story of fake news dates back to 1475 in Italy, where 2.5-year-old child was gone missing, named Shimano, and during that period, a preacher gave a series of false information regarding the missing child. So after that, today's if you come to today's context, it was in 2016 during the US presidential election in America. This fake news was very much prevalent, and it came to the World Bank. Then is my objective. Sir, my objective of this study is to identify the reason of dissemination of fake news and how fake news undermines the foundational principles of democracy. Also to find out if news is from a credible source, and people can identify between fake news and real news. When it comes to my literature review, sir, I have gone through several literature, sir.
You can skip that.
Literature review, sir.
Methodology part, then your significant findings.
Yes, sir. My methodology, sir, I have gone through survey methods and content analysis. For content analysis, sir, research, I have gone through research papers and information, so secondary inputs have been collected, sir, through literature review. And for primary data, sir, I have collected through structured questionnaire from a random sample of a small group of people, sir. So these are the two methods I have used in my methodology, sir.
My presentation is about is fake news a threat to democratic process and governance? A study in Odisha context. So actually, before starting the presentation, I will show some screenshots. It's regarding this in Punjab. Actually, somebody, a group of people were actually beating up a guy. But this video emerged in Uttar Pradesh, and it was actually, they were spreading the propaganda that some Hindus are thrashing the Christians. So it is regarding that. In this context, I am again attaching one story. One Odia Delhi, I am not taking the name. It has published a front page story regarding a video. It was 2013. But actually that video is from Northeast. But they gave a detail about this lynching of a tribal guy. But the very next day, Rajashree district superintendent of police came to media and told that I will go to the court and sue that. But anyway, that is a story taken to the court. But it was actually a clear case of fake news, which was actually published in front page. So the next thing, this is about Mitinam Siram's screenplay. It is about Rahul Gandhi was actually asking for a stick because he wanted to narrate a story including a stick. And he was telling that थोड़ा side हट जाइए, means वो जो झंडा को थोड़ा हटा दीजिए, so that I can people can see me and I can also interact with people. But that story, but Amit Malviya wrote it's hard to be taken. Means तिरंगा को हटा दो, but it is a misleading thing. Another thing is at the same time BJP का Nitin Gadkari, he was telling a story, the transformation story in Lalanda. But actually it was Congress party's handle actually changed it, give a clip videos. So I just gave three examples. There are many examples out there. I will just touch upon small things. So fake news means everybody knows that it is actually going to be a, because after emergence of this new media, means everybody is actually using this. And Los Angeles Times and New York Times, they have given a story. They were telling that they actually WhatsApp forward actually highly reported from India. Means if we see the WhatsApp forward data, India is in the highest category. So WhatsApp forward, people doesn't know actually what is what, because they do not have the type of filters to use that it's a real story or not. So introduction I will just skip it. So my objective of the study is to understand how fake news spreads, how it influences voters and political participation, and the challenges it creates for effective governance. To propose solutions and recommendations to mitigate the spread of fake news. Overall, it aims to shed light on the threat of fake news in India as well as Odisha's democratic landscape and offer a potential solution to safeguard its democratic process and good governance. Some research questions are there, like what are the most common methods used to spread fake news in Odisha? Actually, in Odisha, social media platforms, messaging apps like WhatsApp and other chats, and local news outlets. The most, WhatsApp and social media is okay, but the local media outlets are also kind of many fake news things. They come up with a video wherever it happens. They come up with video if they feel that it is connected to this village, so they run actually. Then again they take down it. But before that damage is done. So sometimes it happens, it creates a problem. Does fake news disproportionately affect certain segments of the Odia population? Especially we see there is no rural or urban divide. Because rural area में ज़्यादा होता है, we can see that rural area are reporting more fake news things because they do not have that type of mechanism to see whether it is real or not. But in urban audience also they are actually getting motivated by this or influenced by this type of things. So how does fake news hinder the effectiveness of government policies and initiatives in Odisha? I will tell you one story. Actually somebody has written that the Ganjam district was given a certificate from United Nations that it is the best district to manage the COVID. I am telling you, Chief Minister of Naveen Patnaik had said this. But in the very next day, they thought that this is a fake news. They took it down. But damage is already done. So CMO is not, even Naveen Patnaik is also hard prey to this thing. So there are many research questions I will not go. Methodology is actually qualitative research methods, case studies and content analysis. I have taken these two things. So, and media dependence theory will be applied for this study. It is a systematic approach to the study of the effects of mass media on audiences and of the interactions between media, audience and social system. So, have taken some contents from media and research things. First, one thing I will tell you. See, in world, some people have told that Brexit, Ukraine Brexit, US election, Russia Ukraine war, even Israel-Palestine conflict. Everywhere you see these emergence of the fake news, misinformation, disinformation. Normally, disinformation is like you are spreading a news intentionally to defend somebody. But in misinformation is you spread the news without any intention. And some honest journalistic mistakes are also there, but sometimes we call it fake news or sometimes we call it honest journalist mistakes. But in Odisha, I'm telling you a very interesting story. Only 30 kilometers from here, a big mistake has happened during this triple train tragedy. In triple train tragedy, many social media handles they tweeted that there was a mosque and the station master is a Muslim. There were a conspiracy has been done. This. That means so all mainstream media actually went there. They talked to the people, then they went there, and it was actually ISKCON temple. And the ISKCON temple, the person who is actually managing the institution, he clearly told that we are actually helping the people. We are not doing anything wrong. But it was actually fake news. Thankfully, mainstream media actually busted this myth, and I cited that. And fake news is here virus actually. So, during COVID, many people were arrested. Why? Because they have circulated some news regarding somebody has died, don't go there, and somebody has COVID, don't touch him. Some type of things are actually were circulated, but government actually arrested many people because of this spreading this fake news. And other things are like gargle these things, use garlic, hot water, sometimes which is actually wrong and fake news also. So actually, what is the status of Odisha in fake news? Odisha is the fourth state reporting fake news. 13 or 17 cases were actually reported according to the NCRB data. And the state government completed. So in 2019 in general election also actually many people circulated a video regarding an MP candidate. And thankfully the police took action and she actually won the election. But actually sometimes it creates problem. Ahead of the election, it will also create problem because of this fake news.
Two methods in our media and its impact studies. Content analysis and so on. Maybe we may use some developments of these methods. As we have not developed or expertise of this method, or we have not clearly understood how to apply this method, so then we are applying. First minus. For example, in the last session, CC sir said that content analysis is purely quantitative. We have follow-up studies. So you have narratives, qualitative data. So there are also few developments of the content analysis. Some say qualitative content analysis or ethnographic content analysis, or few more development of content analysis. So you can use those methods. So similarly, survey. So whatever we want to get data through survey, maybe we may get data through other methods, maybe focus group discussion, interviews, and different methods of interviews. There are many more methods. My point is that this is a general observation. No doubt, survey and content analysis are very important and dominant methods in our study. So we have to understand these methods. At the same time, we have to develop our understanding on the development of methods. Thank you. And another comment, recently I was teaching my students letters to the editor. Somebody in the morning was talking that letters to the editor with democratic space. When I was teaching letters to the editor to my students, I found that a good number of studies on letters to the editor, a small concept, is done in US since 1940s. And huge studies and letters to the editor in US and UK and other parts. but hardly there are good number of studies and letters studies in India and that's in public domain. Similarly, many of us cite media literacy in today. But if you look at the development of media literacy, since last decade, many have started studying news literacy. And there is difference between media literacy, media and information literacy, and also news literacy. But there is hardly any studies on news literacy. So we have to, as media academicians, we have to see the development in our domain. That is very important. Thank you.
And in research, we realized that every problem is a unique problem in a unique context. So there cannot be a universal framework for understanding a problem that is having its own unique context. So there has to be emergent methodology, next methodology, and it goes on because research is a continuous process, as we all know. So I think, went through some really interesting presentations on this broad topic of fake news. So what I can interpret and conclude out of all this is that this reciprocal effects of the medium-mind relationship or mind-medium relationship have altered the equations of human communication within the larger setting of the socio-behavioral frontiers. And more importantly, technology is beneficial as long as it doesn't create a sense of extreme human dependency or it doesn't take away the moral positions of the human mind. That is to say, the nature of the use is always determined by the nature of the user, and the larger benefits of any medium rest inevitably on the soundness of our minds. So mind always precedes the medium, and the nature of the mind determines the effectiveness of the medium, the impact of the medium, and the consequence of the medium. So in this, I thank all the presenters, all the dignitaries of the dais, and all the participants, and Professor Vidubhushan Das, and I again congratulate Madam Bhargava Patnaik for the great conceptualization to have an event like this at a crucial juncture of time, I must repeat, because the election is knocking at the doors, and at this time you dare to organize an event on media, politics, and democracy. So this shows the valor of academics. I congratulate you. Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you, Dr. Dept Misra. Now I would like to request Dr. Bharati Patnaik, HOD for Journalism and Mass Communication Department of this university, please come and felicitate to both our chairpersons, Dr. Dept Misra and Dr. Vidubhushan Das. Thank you. So now I'll pay my heartfelt thanks to our chairperson and co-chairperson, and now I would like to request Professor C.C. Bosu sir, please come and felicitate Professor Pitabas Pradhan sir, please sir. Thank you, sir. Thank you so much. And next I would like to request Thiruval Banerjee, the news editor of PK Delhi, please come and felicitate to Dr. Santosh Kumar Biswal sir. Thank you. Thank you very much. And thank you, sir. Now this session is over. Thank you all. Thank you.